Saturday.
Want to call to order the May 19th,
Travis Inc.
2016 meeting of the Ascension Parish Council. Roll call, Madam Secretary. Please note that Councilwoman Cazzo, Councilman Satterley, and Councilman Turner are absent. Everyone, please stand by invocation given by Mr. Dawson, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, again, we thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us, for the opportunity that you give us in Ascension Parish and this nation. As we go through an election season, oh God, we pray for your wisdom and guidance on all the things that are great in this nation, that we will support it. We also pray for your wisdom in doing the people's business here, because all of us who serve at their will take it very seriously. We thank you will guide the thoughts and actions tonight, and that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. There'll be no chairs additions. Public comments. Anyone wishing to speak on an agenda item, please sign in with the secretary, and you'll be given time to speak when that item comes up. We'll move into the parish president's report. Parish President Matassa.
On the agenda tonight is to introduce a ride-sharing ordinance for Ascension Parish. Ride-sharing is an app-based transportation where qualified drivers or personal vehicles to use their personal vehicles to provide taxi service. In Ascension Parish right now, there are no taxi services registered with the parish, to my knowledge. The most popular is Uber, which you may have taken in your travels, as current operated in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lafayette. If this ordinance passes, we will be the first suburban parish in the Baton Rouge area to allow for this service. I address ride-sharing convenience for new jobs in the press release. So tonight I'll just talk about a little bit about the benefits for public safety. In the year after Uber started operating in Baton Rouge, DWI's arrests dropped 18%. Baton Rouge Police Chief Carl DeBatey gave Uber credit for this reduction. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers provide a stat from California following this introduction of Uber. Alcohol-related crashes decreased by 7% among drivers under the age of 30. That's why MAD is supporting a ride-sharing, and so does Sheriff Wiley, which I had addressed from the beginning to get the approval from him on, he's in law enforcement for our parish, and so went to him when we first thought about it, and he gave us his blessing. The ordinance requires ride-sharing companies to perform national criminal background checks on drivers, as well as ensure they have insurance. And the cost is very reasonable. Base fare from the Baton Rouge area is $1.25 and 15 cents per mile after. So this will get good folks around Ascension and Baton Rouge and a little easier. It will save our kids from the cost of drunk driving and will bring new jobs to Ascension, and I hope you will support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before we go any further, we got some good guests here tonight. I want to let everybody know that we've got our Justice of Peace, Mr. John Hebert, here, and we got former Councilman, Mr. Brian Melanson. Thank y'all for coming, fellas. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, the consent agenda. Chair would recognize a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. John Cagnolati. Any discussion, any opposition?
Opposition.
We have opposition. Madam Secretary, please have a roll call vote.
Councilman Joseph
Yes.
Councilman Dawson.
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Lawler.
No.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
The yeses have it. That is adopted. We'll move to agenda item number 7, committee recommendations. Personnel committee recommendations. Ms. Cazzo's not here tonight. We have someone for Mr. Johnson. Would you take that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Personnel Committee, who met on May 9th of this year, we interviewed applicants for 3 parish boards. Following recommendations were made by the committee. Recommend to appoint Mr. Roger Keys to the Ascension Parish Economic Development Board of Directors to replace Ms. Erica Crenshaw for a term that will expire June 1st of 2017.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes.
For the Industrial Development Board, recommend appointing Mr. Ward Webb to replace Representative Anthony Bacalao, who used to be hold
Motion
that
by Mr.
position.
Dempsey Lambert,
Second.
second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any discussion?
That
Any
term will expire on May 2018, just for information.
Just a short term. Any opposition? Motion carries.
Another appointment was the Child and Youth Planning Board. It's a newly formed board of multiple parishes. There's 11 open positions that we have to appoint. There were 8 people that came before us for interviews. We'd like to recommend those 8. Each will be serving a 2-year term. The first one is Ms. Donna Gonyard.
So moved, Mr.
We have a
Chairman.
motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion, any opposition? Motion passes.
The next person is Mr. Kyle Hanna.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any opposition? Motion passes.
Ms. Heidi Purley.
Motion by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any opposition?
Ms. Josette Guillory.
Motion by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Bill Dawson. Any opposition? Motion passes.
Ms. Veronica Hilliard.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Bill Dawson. Any discussion? Any opposition? And motion passes.
Ms. Charlotte Johnson.
Motion moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnolati.
Charlotte.
Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes.
And last but not least, Ms. Gabrielle Johnson.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes.
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We'll move into general business. Agenda item number 8, announcement of public hearing to adopt the millage rates for the year 2016. And I basically have a statement here. Notice is hereby given that the governing authority of the parish of Ascension, state of Louisiana, will meet in regular session on Thursday, July 7th, 2016, at 6 o'clock at the Ascension Parish Courthouse, 300 Homer Street, Downsville, Louisiana, to hold a public hearing to consider levying additional or increased millage rates without further voter approval or adopting the adjusted millage rates after reassessment and rolling forward to a millage rate not to exceed the prior year's maximum. So that's when that'll come up for us, folks. We'll move to agenda item number 9. Resolution ordering and calling for a special election to be held in Road Lighting District number 7 of the Parish of Ascension, state of Louisiana, on November 8th, 2016, for the purpose of authorizing and the renewal of the levy and collection of a 5 mil and ad valorem tax to assess valuation of all property subject to taxation in the district for a period of 10 years, beginning in the year 2017 and ending with the year 2026. Mr. Dugas, Bond Counsel.
Good evening, members of the council. This is a renewal of a road lighting tax that expires in 2016. I'll just read the resolution. It says a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in road lighting district number 7 of the Parish of Ascension, state of Louisiana, on November 8th, 2016, for the purpose of authorizing the renewal of the levy and collection of a 5 mills ad valorem tax on assessed valuation of all properties subject to taxation in the district for a period of 10 years, beginning in the year 2017 and ending with the year 2026, to provide funds to acquire, improve, and equip the system of road lighting on the streets, roads, highways, alleys, and public places of the district, and to provide funds to pay the operation and maintenance costs and expenses in connection therewith, and further making application to the State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold the aforesaid election, and further providing for other matters in connection therewith.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Dawson. Discussion, Mr. Todd Lambert.
Mr. Malcolm, we have a time frame on this. We couldn't delay this until the election, the fall election, when, instead of spending the money on a special election.
Well, actually, this is going to be when the congressional election.
It will be a
presidential
okay.
election.
That's just checking.
In November.
Thank
So
you.
it'll actually be cheaper at that time.
Great. That's awesome.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Any opposition? Resolution passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 10. Resolution terminating Regions Bank as paying agent with respect to the Series 2012 bonds and Series 2015 bonds, and to appoint Whitney Bank as paying agent with respect to the Series 2012 and Series 2015 bonds. Bond Counsel Malcolm Dugas. That's on agenda item number 10. Just a basic explanation why we changed it.
Just a resolution, I think John Schroeder changed banks, and he's just asking that the paying agent be changed from Regions to Whitney Bank.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Aaron Lawler. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 11. Condemnation proceedings, 10313 Joe Jackson Road, Gonzales, Louisiana. We have a speaker on this, Mr. Bourgeois, so I'm allowed a speaker. First, Ms. Dora Jackson.
Mr. President, good evening. I'm here on behalf of this item because actually I don't have the funds to pay anybody to tear that down. So I'm here to ask for some time that I can get someone to help me to do this. It's not that I want to keep the building. I know it needs to be tore down. I see it needs to be tore down. But actually, it's not hurting anybody but me. But I'm here, like I said, I'm asking for time to tear it down on my own time, because I don't have money to pay anybody here.
Yes.
Unless you all are willing to help me.
How much time do you need?
Well, I actually don't know how much time that I need. However, time that, as much as you can give me.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I know we normally extend it. I know I always make that motion. I don't know why, but I always do. We'll give them 60 days, and within 60 days, if they don't, we immediately go and do it in.
Because it's not
So-
no they, it's me. Because I'm a widow, and my husband been passed, and I'm just a loner. So I'm
Right.
trying to do this on my own. $20,000 is a lot of money,
Thank you, ma'am.
and I definitely don't want no lien on it. So I would appreciate any help that I can get.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bourgeois, you want to give us the background on this, sir? Mr. Laverne Bourgeois.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Council members, there was a timeline, and it should be in your package, that we went through addressing this condemnation of this as a complaint. And if I could put it on for the audience to see perhaps, the building that we're talking about is a pretty large building. And more than likely, it would take some good funding to get this building removed. But we have followed the procedure for condemnation per ordinance, And tonight we're here to get guidance from the council, and I appreciate you listening to the speaker. So I'm standing here tonight and asking what the next step you would like for me to proceed with.
Thank you, sir. We had, Mr. Lawler.
Do we know what the cost is to tear down the building?
Councilman, we kind of get some preliminary, anywhere from $16,000 to $20,000.
Thank you.
It's a pretty large building.
Yes, Parish President.
Mr. Bourgeois, a building like that, and I mean, I know where it's at now, but would it be anything like maybe talking to the fire departments for some kind of training deal to burn it down? Would that reduce the cost of actually demolishing?
We've had some help in the past from the fire district, but this building, Mr. President, is mostly blocked,
Oh,
the
okay.
structure.
Yeah, being it's two-story, the hazard of burning it would be pretty significant as well.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that motion. We extend it to 60 days. That's all.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Todd Lambert for a 60-day extension to Ms. Jackson. Any further discussion?
I would
Yes.
like to pass something else on to you all. I don't know if you would approve of it or not, but like he just said, the building is blocked, mostly blocked. And there's nothing wrong with the blocks or the foundation. And if I could just tear all the wood part down and burn it, I wanted to know, could that be sufficient?
Let's let them meet, Mr. Bourgeois.
I would think that would be a lengthy thing to consider. I don't know if Mr. Bourgeois would like to meet with you and in the administration and talk about that.
Certainly, we'd have dialogue with that. Gesture, Mr. President, the only concerns I have about that is some of these walls, standing, they're the tipsy motion, and it would be a task to have just taking the wood out of that building and leaving the masonry standing. It still would
Safety
be,
hazard?
it still could be a hazard, in my opinion, which you asked of.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second on the floor for a 60-day extension. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Motion is passed. You have a 60-day extension. Thank you, Laverne. Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move along to agenda item number 12, request for change order ICE Sales and Services, LLC, CWEF. Chlorine Booster Station Project, Parish Project Code 2015-0003, ENG 16-81. Mr. Dawson, we got Mr. Depew.
Hi.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman, council members. This is the ongoing CWIF grant for the chlorine booster at Palo Alto. And when we had the original estimate, it was a $100,000 grant. And our original estimate was it was going to be over the $100,000. The grant came in below the $100,000. So we added the fencing back in into the grant portion of it.
Motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by Mr. Cagnalotti, second
Second.
by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move to agenda item number 13. Recommendation by the Parish Council for interim justice of the peace for the Second Justice Court in Ascension Parish. Mr. Parrington, do you have anything to say on this?
Just that the Supreme Court notified me and there's an opening for an interim replacement. The election will either be in October or November, and anyone appointed, the council would just make a recommendation. The Supreme Court's going to appoint who they desire to appoint. They'll consider your recommendation. The only condition is whoever you appoint, it will not be able to run for the office.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion.
I make a motion to put Brian Malonzo.
Second it.
And we have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Oliver Joseph to appoint Mr. Brian Malonzo. Any discussion? Any opposition? That motion passes. And it's my understanding that we just going forward with a recommendation that the court will do whatever they please.
Yes.
They just respect
Yes.
the local government, and we respect them for that. Thank you, sir. We'll move along to introduction of ordinances. Introduction of ordinance number 1 to levy millages on the 2016 tax roll on all property subject to taxation by Ascension Parish government.
Motion to introduce.
We have a
Mr.
motion
Chairman.
introduced by Mr. Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Any opposition? It's introduced. Agenda item number 15, introduction of ordinance number 2 to levy millages on the 2016 tax roll on all property subject to taxation by Ascension Parish government.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any opposition? It's passed. Agenda item number 16, introduction of ordinance, budget amendment number 4 to amend the 2016 budget.
Motion.
Motion introduced by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Bill Dawson. Any opposition? It's introduced. Agenda item number 17, introduction of an ordinance SR 16-07, revision of the subdivision regulation and Unified Land Development Code pertaining to wetlands determination. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of this item. Do we have someone that can speak on this? Give us a cliff notes? Mr.
I can.
Mr. Perry.
We've been using wetland delineations instead of determinations for the past 2 years for the submission of preliminary plat, so we want to change the language just to fit what we've been doing.
So move. Introduce.
We have a motion by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Dawson. Any opposition? It's introduced. We'll move to agenda item number 18, introduction of ordinance to move voting precinct number 34 from Sorrento Town Hall to the Sorrento Community Center.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Dawson, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any opposition? Before we close on that, I just want to know that those requests come to us from the Registrar of Voters Office and from the Assessor's Office.
And from Sorrento on this one, so
And,
that we
and
can use the.
from the town itself on this particular one. Is introduced. We'll move to agenda item number 19, introduction of ordinance to amend Chapter 13, occupational licenses, taxes, and regulations to add Article 7, Transportation Network Services of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances.
Motion to introduce.
And, Mr.
This is the Uber Lyft. I don't want to just say one company. This is the Uber Lyft type ordinance.
This is the new taxi service.
Not a taxi service.
Ride share.
Whatever.
Second.
I'm from Santa Monica. We have a motion by Mr. Aaron Lawler.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any objection? It is introduced. We'll move into our public hearing ordinances. Reading of ordinance, budget amendment number 3 to amend the 2016 budget.
An ordinance to amend the ordinance approving, adopting, and appropriating the 2016 operating and capital budget for the parish of Ascension, adopted by Ascension Parish Council on 19th day of December 2015. Section 1, the Ascension Parish Council hereby ordains that the ordinance approving, adopting, appropriating the 2016 operating and capital budgets for the parish of Ascension is hereby amended, approved, and appropriated as follows. Operating budget, general fund, planning, development department expenditures, engineering services, review of subdivision plans, $250,000. Professional services, Duncan and Associates contract, $10,000. Sales tax district number 1, expenditures and other financing uses, transfer out of ACUD number 1, $55,000. Lighting district number 3, expenditures, contract payments, installation of lights at Lowry Park, $30,000. Jail expenditures and other financing uses, major repairs, replacement of cooling tower, $60,000. ACUD number 1, revenue and other financing sources transferred from sales tax district number 1, $55,000. Expenditures, engineering services, chloramine booster station project, $20,000. Professional services, chloramine booster station, $35,000. ACUD number 2, expenditures and other financing services transfer out of water, wastewater construction, $434,000. Capital budget, water, wastewater, construction fund revenue and other financing sources transferred from ACUD number 2, Corps of Engineers, grant match, $430,000. Expenditures, appropriations, and grants, Corps of Engineers matched $430,000. This ordinance submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion to open public hearing. We have a motion to open public hearing by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Cagnotti. We have a speaker on this, Mr. Jeff Pettit.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jeff.
Randy, thank you. Thank you all for hearing me. My one concern, which I think everybody's well aware of, is the $250,000 for engineering review services for preliminary plats for the Planning and Zoning Commission. My problem with that is the administration promised this council, and promised the citizens of Ascension Parish that this proposal would be revenue neutral. It would not cost the taxpayers anything. That the developers, the cost of the traffic and drainage studies would be passed on to the developers and owners of the property who are submitting the preliminary plats. As submitted, and I understand that this ordinance contains many things, but I would ask you all to strike that one item out of it until such a time as the administration comes back to us, the council and the public, with a complete package as promised publicly that it would be revenue neutral. This is not revenue neutral. I'm sorry. It's $250,000 taxpayer dollars, okay? It needs to be revenue neutral. It is not. We were promised, and the promise has not been kept yet. I would ask y'all to do this, or consider this, not do this, consider this, until such a time as this administration comes to this council and in front of the public, and brings a revenue-neutral proposal that we impose a moratorium on new subdivisions until that happens. This does not need to cost the taxpayers any more money. That is, that's my concern, and that's my request of y'all to consider. We were promised. Promises need to be kept. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
by Mr. Todd Lambert, second by Mr. Johnson. Chair will entertain a motion on the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, can we ask the administration to address this? Perhaps Mr. Dawson can,
Sure,
I had a different
I was
understanding
gonna
of
get to
how.
it, but you can go ahead now.
Thank you.
You know the revenue stream, where it goes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the reason why the 250 was done on the budget amendment, checking with our finance department that by law, you actually have to have it as a budget item to legally go out for a RFQ. So the budget amendment had to be performed for that particular reason. Secondly, as you all remember, that there was an increase in those fees that was done last year to bring more dollars into the review process. According to the initial evaluation of finances, it looks very good. According to what we're currently getting in, and that was a financial evaluation done based upon current dollars, what we're initially getting in, we will have enough money to carry on preliminary plat reviews all the way down to final construction, while any additional revenue added to the taxpayer and to the budget. Secondly, as was said to this body, that if there were more than 2 review times, then that additional reviews will be passed on to the developer. So they get two chances to get it right. The first submission, and then after the comments, the second submission. After that, that cost will be passed on to the engineering firm or the developer at that time.
Thank you,
And
sir.
it would be at an hourly rate.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Todd Lambert.
Yeah, talking to some of the administration also and some of the staff, I think it's gonna be paid pretty much 100%, and I think there's gonna be a surplus of maybe 23%.
Yes, sir.
Left over that's going to the department for
Yes,
operations.
sir. Initial evaluation showed that 70-some-odd% would take care of all of the numerous reviews that we're currently doing, with about 20-some-odd% that would be left to take care of the staffing that administration needs to administer the program. So we're very excited about the numbers we saw.
Pretty much what you're saying is paid by the developer.
Yes,
not-
sir.
Not out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I want to just make it clear to everybody that it's going through our normal process, it's going out for RFQ.
Yes,
and-
sir.
And any firm that bids on it will be chosen.
Yes, sir.
One thing let me
Yes,
add.
Parish President Matowski.
There's some parishes that do, one parish that I know does it a little different. They let the contractor get with the engineering company, but I don't like the way that is, so they go through us and we pay them.
We do have some parishes, matter of fact, we got a neighboring parish that does not have in-house services. And they're one of 3 parishes lower than us that use a third party for all their services on that.
Councilmember, if you approve it, I already have the ordinance drafted that we'll introduce next month.
Yes.
Where after the second time, they'll pay by the hourly rate. But we didn't introduce it tonight because if you didn't pass this, there wasn't an outside
Yes.
contract to deal with. So it's already drafted to be introduced next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Parrington. Yes,
Brief question.
Mr. Lawler.
Is this a short-term solution? I mean, are we looking that in the future, we're going to have to hire engineers in-house? Or is this something we're going to look at doing year after year?
Well, it's like this, if you got them contracted, they charge you for what you sent them. You know what I'm saying, Aaron? So, at present, we did advertising for drainage and road engineers, and not too many out there. So for us to keep operating and keeping up with what we have, we really need this service.
So in this case, they're only getting paid for the work they do. If we have
Oh,
people
always.
in-house, we're
Always.
paying them if they're sitting around doing nothing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one more comment.
Mr. Joseph. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Dawson.
Just real quick, and we have been getting turnarounds about 2 weeks on it. So the turnaround time has been going very, very well. I can say there have been very little comments coming back to administration about it. So the process has been working well thus far.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Joseph.
Yes, I would just only ask administration once, annual report on this, just to show us and the public exactly what the dollars and turnaround time and all that stuff. And if we can do that, I think that would satisfy the public more, okay?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? At this time, once again, the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Cagnalotti. Any further discussion? Any opposition? It is passed. We'll move on to agenda item number 23, reading of ordinance to revoke 15-foot drainage servitude, which follows the original rear property and a 7.5 portion of the existing 15-foot drainage servitude that runs along the original north line to be revoked, located on the west end of Riverwinds Court for Darwin W. Ferguson, Ferris Engineering and Surveying LLC. Mr. Parrington.
To revoke an existing 15-foot and 7.5-foot existing drainage servitude running across the middle and northern side of Lot 498A1 of the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property, and to relocate a 7.5-foot servitude on the northern and western property lines of Lot 498A1 of the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property as depicted on the Ferris Engineering and Surveying LLC plat dated March 9, 2006. Said revocation and relocation of servitude is done in conjunction with the issuance of additional drainage servitudes on track GCZ-S-18 owned by Pelican Point 27 Golf Club LLC and depicted on the above reference map. Whereas the petition is petitioning Ascension Parish Council to revoke an existing 15-foot and 7.5-foot existing drainage servitude running across the middle of the northern side of Lot 498-A-1 of the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property, and to relocate a 7.5-foot servitude on the north and western property lines of Lot 498-A-1 of the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property as depicted on the Ferris Engineering and Surveying LLC plat map dated March 9, 2006. That revocation and relocation of servitude is done in conjunction with the issuance of additional drainage servitudes on track GCZ-S-1-A owned by Pelican Point 27 Golf LLC as depicted on the above reference map. Whereas the Planning Department, Engineering Department, and all relevant utility companies have reviewed and researched said request and have no objection to the revocation and relocation, the Parish of Ascension hereby ordains that it grants approval to the revocation of the existing 15-foot and 7.5-foot existing drainage servitude running across the middle of lot and northern side of lot 498A1 of the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property, and hereby relocates the 7.5-foot servitude on the northern and western property of the lines of lot 498A1 on the Pelican Point Resort Living LLC property as depicted on the Ferris Engineering and Surveying LLC plat, map dated March 9, 2006. Attached here to and made a part, 2016. Attached here to and made a part as Exhibit A. Said revocation, relocation of servitude is done in conjunction with the issuance of additional drainage servitudes on track GCZ S1A owned by Pelican Point 27 Golf LLC and is depicted on the above reference map. All ordinances or other parts, ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby henceforth repealed. If any provision of the ordinance is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the remaining provisions and shall be given full effect without invalid provisions. And to this end, the provisions of the ordinance are hereby declared severable. The effective date of this ordinance shall be 15 days after adoption. The ordinance had been submitted. The vote thereon was as follows.
Motion, open public
We have
hearing.
a motion to
Mr.
open
Chair.
public hearing by Mr. Todd Lambert,
Second.
second by Mr. Aaron Lawler.
Motion closed.
We have a motion to close by Mr. Benny Johnson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Joseph. I had to pick between you and Cagnolati.
Move to adopt.
We have motion to adopt the ordinance by Mr. Yes,
Councilman, this is the issues that I brought up where we're just relocating servitudes rather than me doing ordinances. Does the council have any objection to this being done internally and the map and change being done from now on? Because
I
we're
can
just
give you a
reading a
summary
moving
on
of a
that.
servitude.
Mr. Rue and his department, we've worked on this for years, and we've had a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy going into this, where we do have some drainage servitudes that are not necessarily in use. We have some drainage servitudes as communities evolve, that it becomes necessary to put them in a different place. And I would think that's something that this council needs to take up. We have a motion by Mr. Dawson to move the ordinance. Second by Mr. Cagnolati. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 26, reading of ordinance. Ordinance authorizes the Parish of Ascension to purchase property for Ascension Parish sewer program improvements, Hillaryville, Darrow, St. Elmo areas. Mr. Parrington.
Whereas the Parish of Ascension desires to purchase property for the Ascension Parish sewer program improvements, Hillaryville, Darrow, and St. Elmo areas project, whereas there is a need and purpose to purchase the property in order to improve the parish sewer in Ascension Parish. Whereas the Parish of Ascension hereby desires to purchase the property as per law and authorizes the office of the parish president to do whatever necessary to enter into negotiations to purchase said property as per law in the best interest of the parish. The Parish of Ascension hereby ordains to authorize the office of the parish president to negotiate and purchase certain lots of parcels belonging to L&R Harvey Realty LLC, R.W. Jones Realty LLC, situated in the Parish of Ascension, more fully described as Exhibit A. Attached here to and made a part hereof for the Ascension Parish Sewer Program Improvements, Hillaryville, Darrow, St. Elmo areas project. That pursuant to all applicable provisions of the law, the parish is directed and authorized to do whatever necessary to purchase the property. The parish is hereby authorized and instructed to proceed accordingly in a timely, orderly manner. That the parish is authorized to exercise its discretion in purchasing the property, together with all agreements and transactions necessary to carry out the intent of the ordinance, and that the purchase price or value shall not exceed $1,185.00 to repeal all ordinance or parts or ordinance in conflict herewith. In the event any provision of this ordinance ever held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the other provisions herein and shall give full effect to the invalid provisions. As to the end of the provisions are hereby declared to be severable. This ordinance had been submitted to a vote. The vote thereon was as follows.
So moved.
We have a motion to open public hearing by Mr. Cagnolati, second by Mr. Lawler.
Motion to close.
We have a motion to close by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Todd Lambert.
Motion to accept the ordinance.
We have a motion to move the ordinance by Mr. Joseph. Second by Mr. Bill Dawson. Mr. Benny Johnson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, Mr. Dawson, can you give a reasoning behind the property purchase?
Yeah.
So everybody knows what we're doing?
Sure. This is the Hillaryville-Darrow project, the $5-point-something million CDBG grant. This is we had some issues with some of the land with the lift station. This is just to purchase land for the lift station so that that project can be completed and move forward and go out for bid.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to go into executive session for Iris and Garcia versus Ascension Parish.
So move.
We have a motion by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Cagnolati. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes.
Councilman Dawson.
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Yes. Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Lawler.
Yes.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Cluett.
Yes. We are adjourned to executive session. We'll re-adjourn in a bit.
A motion to reconvene,
We
Mr.
have a
Chairman.
motion by Mr. Todd Lambert to reconvene, second by Mr. Cagnolati. We are reconvened. We'll move into agenda item number 29.
Yes, Councilman, this is an auto accident where the parish was at fault, and as we discussed in executive session, we just need the authority to make a settlement.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Aaron Lawler, second by Mr. Todd Lambert.
And this is to make the offer, not to settle it, but to make a settlement offer.
Authorizing
Let them come back and give
administration
you
to
the
make the
amount
offer
for sure at the
for
end.
settlement. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 30. We have a motion to adjourn by Mr. John Cagnolati, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? No opposition? We are adjourned.